Question is, what is something you changed your opinion about in the past few years? Thank you for everything you're doing. Love from Brussels. I love Belgium. Thank you for that question and the kind words. I change my mind on a lot of things, and I change my mind all the time. I'm in a constant flux. I'm constantly learning. I guess my mind is a quantum mechanical system. But I can mention a few things that have been stable, big shifts in my thinking, at least over the past year or two, especially related to the podcast. So on the topic of psychedelics, I've always found those fascinating. What I've changed my mind over the past couple of years is a hopeful message. I think that psychedelics can actually enter the realm of science, and that there's a bunch of places that are starting to conduct large-scale research studies on psychedelics. And that's really exciting to me because I have a sense that that's just another perspective into the world of neuroscience that will help us understand the way the mind works and potentially how to engineer different aspects of what makes the human mind so special in our artificial intelligence systems. On the topic of social media, I've changed my mind over the past 2 years. I always felt that it had a bunch of complicated bad influences on society, but they were balanced with a lot of positive effects that build community, that give people a voice, all those kinds of things. More and more, I'm starting to think that the possible set of destructive trajectories that social media can take human civilization is much wider, much more destructive than I accounted for. So it's something that I worry about. You know, in the space of existential risk of artificial intelligence that people talk about, I think my mind more and more over the past 2 years has been focused on social media as the greatest threat of artificial intelligence. I also think it's the greatest set of possibilities. So what I want to say is it's the set of trajectories is wider than I expected. The set of possible trajectories than society might go as driven by, managed by, directed by our platforms. Hence, it's been something that I've been working on to see if I can help. The biggest thing I probably changed my mind on is that extraterrestrial life, intelligence, consciousness is worthy of serious scientific investigation. It's similar how I felt before about consciousness, human consciousness, is that we lack the tools and we're very early in our ability to explore, to understand, to engineer consciousness. And the same with extraterrestrial life. The tools are very crude in terms of the SETI efforts of trying to communicate with faraway civilizations, also the listening. Then there's the detection in faraway exoplanets and whether they're habitable and life forms on those planets. Also the hundreds of thousands of reports of UFO sightings, actually getting some high resolution sensory data around that. So we're in the very early days of any of that kind of understanding. But what I've changed my mind on, or rather what I've come to understand, is closing my mind, closing the mind of other scientists to these fields of consciousness and extraterrestrial life prevents us from actually discovering new things. Basically, what happens when you close your mind to these fascinating, inspiring, mysterious spaces of exploration, you leave the exploration of these topics to people that are not well equipped to explore them. They're just curious minds. And by the way, those curious minds are magical and they're inspiring, and I'm one such curious mind. But the rigors of science, the tools of science, the funding of science can crack these wide open and give us better data, better understanding, inspire totally new ways of thinking about consciousness, about extraterrestrial life, have entire paradigm shifts of the way we approach our understanding of intelligence, of life forms in general. And there's a lot of things that kind of open my eyes to this fascinating world. The David Fravor conversation of the pilot that saw the Tic Tac UFO It was just recent, a more conversation, but that was in 2017. I remember seeing Avi Loeb's thoughts about Oumuamua when it first came out, and even just thinking about the Drake equation more seriously and thinking about the different possibilities built into the uncertainty of the parameters, just opened my eyes to the mystery and the wonder of the amazing universe we're in and how little we know about it. And so I've definitely kind of become much more intellectually open to the exploration of what extraterrestrial life might look like. What are the ways we might be able to communicate with it? How we might be able to understand it? What does it teach us about ourselves? And also, importantly, this very fascinating psychological effect of being open to these mysteries that we know very little about. What does that do to the actual productivity, the creative output of an engineering mind? That opening your mind in this way to think outside of the little box of things we understand well, what does that do in terms of the things you might be able to build? The ideas that might visit you and result in you being able to build something totally new. I think all of that changed my mind about aliens. That's why I've been having conversations about extraterrestrial life. I'm, of course, very careful walking down this line because I am first and foremost a scientist and engineer, and I want to stay in that world. But I really do want to cultivate an open mind and a childlike curiosity. And I genuinely hope to see that in other scientists as well. That's what science is all about. I think incremental progress is essential for science, but it has to be coupled to that childlike wonder about the world and an open-minded, out-of-the-box thinking that results in major paradigm shift that throw all those silly citations out the window and build totally new sciences, totally new approaches that make everything we did in the decades past meaningless or actually counterproductive. So they have to be coupled together. Incremental progress and first principles, deep thinking that results in paradigm shifts.
Watch more podcast clips now on our YouTube channel. Go to Livewire Podcast Clips and watch more great podcast videos just like this one.